Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Elizabeth Elenor with Pause, and I'm on my laptop today because I'm at home. I'm at home and I'm heading back up to Sydney um, just after this. So I'm using my laptop because I forgot to bring my thing for my phone. So today I wanted to talk to you about building on your skills, like when one thing leads to another. And it's really interesting. We can forget the things that, like where we were, and the things that used to irritate us, the things that used to find, challenging, incapable, all of those things. We can find ourselves in a space where uh, we forget how hard it was or challenging it was in previous relationships, in previous jobs, in previous health conditions, whatever it might be, right? And so that just sort of happened to me. I had this moment. I've been working with some of my one on one clients in my golden program, and I had four in a row on Friday, and we were talking about the first two we were talking about relationships, and as we were talking, like the lady that I was talking with, the first one, is in sort of a relationship that where it's not a relationship. She's just met this guy, and she's been sort of seeing him but not seeing him, right? Anyway, we came to this place where we realized she's asked him twice, what's his definition of this relationship, and both times he's come back with, I'm not interested in a relationship, right? And I'm like, sorry, dude, like, you can't say that. Like, you're in a relationship. I'm in a relationship with you right now. You're in a relationship with your kids. You're in a relationship with your next door neighbor. You're in a relationship. How you define that relationship is another thing, right? And so we went over and discussed what that meant and what the relationship was to her. And, this guy was basically, as I said to her, this guy is, she said, he wants his cake and he wants to eat it too, right? And I said, actually, he's going, I want the cake. I'm pulling it out of the fridge. It's a chocolate cake, and I really love chocolate, but I'm going to pretend it's a vanilla cake, and I'm going to define it as a vanilla cake, and I'm going to eat some of that vanilla cake, and then I'm going to put it back in the goddamn fridge and take it back out when I want to, and still call it a vanilla cake, right? And so we were discussing what that meant to her. And it was really interesting because as we were doing that, I recognized that there are things that I have understood now that I didn't understand in previous relationships, in previous, my ability to coach even, to be able to listen to what someone's saying and follow the thread of where they're going actually started way back when I was doing past life regression. And, I know that there's so many different ways of doing past life regression. And the way I used to do it is I would take someone in. So the person was finding their past life, not me, right? They were the one. I would take them into an altered state. I would then get them to, I'd guide them to the life, whatever would come up, because higher self knows. I'm just going to have a cup of tea. And I would guide them, right, to the life that was coming up. And then what I would do is I would sit with that person, and even though, like, sometimes I would see the same images, but other times I would be on a journey, interacting as a person guiding her, right? Or him. And so as I was doing that, I was able to follow threads. And what would happen is when there was a bump in the system, that's what I would define it as, when there's a bump in the system, and they were making a choice that they had made before and they recognized that they'd made before, but didn't realize or didn't know how to change it, I would then guide them to a better choice, a better decision. And that would then shift the energy and open up a new avenue. And, sometimes it might be a life where they had died. And so in that new choice, something shifted and they had a beautiful relationship, or they died as an older woman instead, right? Now, everything's happening in the now, and for those that aren't aware of how past life regression works and the mind, and that everything's in the now moment, you may not even understand that, right? But that's why you get a coach. That's why you get someone like me that can guide and give all of those, all that knowledge of why that works and how that works, right? But I remember one of the choices that I made myself when it was one of the first ever past life regressions, that because I didn't believe in any of this stuff, guys. You got to know that I actually didn't believe in any of this stuff, right? My head is quite scientific. I grew up with a family that I didn't even know the word woo woo was actually there was no woo woo name that came when I was in this. That's a new sort of language. New Age came around for a while. When I first started doing this sort of stuff, there was none of those, it was spiritual, right? And it had, little connotations of being witch and all that sort of stuff. So it was a little bit challenging for me because I couldn't physically see it. I couldn't, until I had evidence, I was not really on board. And I was doing it for about a year, I think, before I really started. That was when I had those 3 shooting stars. And that's when I started going, okay, I'm going to listen, because that was physical evidence. But I had this other piece that really supported me. And I had been, I'd come into this life and I was basically a man in the street and had a hard life. No one had listened to him. He had ended up being a bum, like I could feel my hair was long, my hair was yucky and matted. I could feel, that my skin was dirty. I could see that I had holes in my shoes. And I was basically there and I was just about to head off, like didn't want to be on the planet anymore too much, didn't want to go there, right? And the woman that was my mentor at the time, she was facilitating me, and she said, what made this happen? What was the decision? Where did it come from? And so I was transported straight back to being 7 years old. And because I was just new to past life at the time, everything was very simple. Like I wasn't getting a lot of detail. I wasn't getting a lot of information in my mouth, verbally. Like after this, I ended up being channeling and doing all sorts of stuff. But at the time, it was very simple. I was learning. I was building up the skill within my system, right? And so here I was, 7 years old, and I was sort of like in a void. This is how my mind interpreted it. And I was in a void, and there was a whole heap of adults all around me. And I was 7 years old, and I was trying to get their attention. And I was saying to them, you need to listen. We're all one. But no one would hear me. And so my facilitator at the time, my mentor, she came in her light body and stood next to me. And she said, everyone needs to listen to this young boy. He's got a message for you, right? So everyone turns around because she's the adult, right? And everyone turns around, and I start saying, we're all one. We just need to love each other. Very simple information, right? Because that's as far as my brain could comprehend the energy and the frequency I was getting and interpret it, right? And so, start saying all this stuff. she says to me while we're laying in, her lounge room, I'm laying on the floor. She says, okay, let's see what happens now. Let's go back to your future. Back to the future, right? And it was just amazing because it was the very first time I physically felt a difference. So I jumped back into the future, but this time it's a different timeline, right? This time it's a different place. This time I'm an adult and I'm dressed in a suit and I'm wearing clean clothes. And when here I am laying on this lounge, and I said to her, oh my gosh, my hair is short and clean. I could literally feel it. And it was the first time I'd had a physical response in my body. And so, I could feel my hair was short, it was clean. I was walking down the street and people were looking at me with respect and, loving who I was and all of those things, right? Now, that was really interesting, and it was a very important point in my development because a lot of the times I was younger than everyone else in the group. In that particular group, there was about 5 of us. I lived in Cairns. Everyone else lived in the Atherton Tablelands. They were all in their, late 50s, early 60s at the time. And here I was in my 30s. I think I was early 30s. And so it was a shift in my physical being to be okay with being younger than everyone else and having wisdom and being able to speak that wisdom, right? So it was a shift. But what happened was I then started, out of everyone in the group, I was the only one that ended up doing past life regression and being a facilitator like my mentor. And I started doing mentoring and started doing past life regression with people. And after doing it for a couple of years, I started mastering it and whatever, I recognized that what was happening was everyone was getting into being more excited about the story of where they were than actually the transformation and the shift. And so what I did was I started making it a little bit more, I changed and shifted within me. I shifted my perception, and that what I was there was to do, what I was there to do was to create that transformation and that energetic alignment with higher self. Because one of the things about past lives is that when you have got a past life, that there was some sort of trauma, some sort of accident, something that went wrong in some way, like there's no wrong, but anything that went out of alignment, what I would do is take them through, and we would navigate until we found that misalignment, and then we would talk it through until we found the alignment piece, and that would shift it. And I used to explain to people, it's sort of like acupuncture. So you've got meridians in your body, you've got these energetic lines within your body, and if there's something out of balance in one of the meridians, there's like a block in that, and so the energy doesn't flow well. So doing a past life regression was one of the things that I used to explain, is like getting an acupuncture needle and placing it on that block so that the energy can flow well. Because the more past life information that you get and you shift, the more it's sort of like you're this triangle, and you start bringing those things in so that you're in alignment with your higher self and being able to hear what your path is now, instead of those blocks that were holding you back from now that I'm doing Recode, from not just past lives, but from conditioning from our childhood, but also generational history, right? What society believes at the time, the culture, all of those things come into play that may be frequencies that are holding you back, that are holding you off your being tuned in to your higher self and your guidance to find that beautiful partner, to stay in those beautiful relationships, to be in amazing health, to be creating your empire or your wealth, whatever it might be, right? The more you're in alignment with your higher self, the more you don't have to do the work. You're actually just listening and watching the breadcrumbs. So fast forward to today, and my cup of tea. On Friday, when I had these clients, not just these clients, but several other clients I've been getting lately, because I do group calls on my Conscious Creator course, and I do one-on-one with the Golden Group. And one of the things that I've noticed but not noticed until Friday is how often my clients go, oh my gosh, I was just thinking that, how did you know? Or, oh my gosh, yes, that's because, like I did on the group call the other day, someone said something that made me go, is it okay if we do a recode? Sometimes I just need to pinpoint one of the women that are in the course, because something comes up, right? And this woman, and I asked her, can we do a recode? And I followed the thread, and I said, oh, there's some energy of being stubborn, right? There was this energy of being stubborn. She was actually, we were doing a little bit of muscle testing, so I could teach them some of the basics. And so she was, like I was saying, this is a yes, this is a no, right? Well, her yes and her no were the same. And she has got this thing of, challenging childhood, a lot of stuff that went on that is still affecting her right now. And so you could see that, oh, this is another one of those things, right? I could feel it in her energy. And so I went, can we do a recode on this? And there was this energy of being stubborn, and not being able to, I can't even remember what happened now, but not being okay with speaking your truth, right? And being okay to do that and feeling safe to do that you're safe now. And so when we came out, I gave her some time because it was a big one. And then we came back to it, and she said, when you said stubborn, I remembered this memory from my childhood and this memory from my childhood that I hadn't thought of or hadn't remembered for a long time, or, and so we were able to clear that, and I was able to support her body by giving her some information in that frequency, right? But what I get a lot is, oh man, I mean, I'm talking even to I was doing a process with one of my clients, and halfway through, this is in the Golden Group, Golden one-on-one. I was doing a one-on-one, and halfway through the session, which was a pretty intense, deep, we were doing a part of her that we needed to integrate. And I had the thought come up, I better tell her that I would never do this in front of the group. And so when we were finishing off and I was explaining what was happening, I said, oh, by the way, I would never do this. I know that this is pretty intense work for you and blah, blah, blah. And I would never do this in front of the group. And she just started laughing, and she said, oh my gosh, she said, that was the exact thought I had. I thought, I'm so glad that Elizabeth's not doing this with me in front of the group. And so what I've recognized, so I'm coming back to where I was going. What I recognized was that all that training back then, when I was playing and I didn't actually know what I was doing, and I actually didn't even believe in it, all that training way back then with past life regression and following threads has led me to where I am today, where I'm working with some really powerful women, and working I've worked with a couple of millionaires, and that are needing me to support them in reading the energy of where they're heading and the decisions that they're making, and bringing them back, reminding them what their focus is in the first place, and clearing the stuff that's getting in the way when they have generational stuff come up or past lives, and being able to follow and oh, that's actually from your mother's lineage and blah blah blah, like being able to grab that information and know exactly what it is and being able to step into that. I now have recognized that is because of way back when I was doing the past life regression and being able to follow threads and making decisions on what I was teaching people back then. I could have quite easily got caught up in the place of sharing, well, this is who you were and this is what you did, and just getting caught up in the vanity metrics of it, as they say in coaching world, and helping people feel really excited because they were this and this and this, and they follow the story instead of being there for the transformation. So I want to ask you, what skill sets do you remember being really nervous about, feeling incapable, not good enough, not worthy, and now you just take for granted? Like, when it comes to relationships, what did you learn from your previous relationships that were, in a way, a failure, traumatic, left you high and dry, challenging, emotional wreck, whatever it might be? What were those moments that you can go, wow, they actually were really beneficial to me, because in those moments I made a choice. I made a choice not to experience this again. I made a choice to let go of something that was trivial, and now it doesn't burden me when somebody else does it. What are some of the things that you can look at now and go, actually, I have developed, I have built that skill, I have let go of that issue, I have moved on. Whatever those things are, those things, sometimes we totally ignore them and don't acknowledge them. And when you acknowledge them, it sort of creates more tangibility in your auric field and more decisiveness in your auric field, ready for that next step. And so it's building on those skills, it's building on those decisions, it's building and being aware of them that make a huge difference to your life and to what you're choosing for your future. So that's pause for today. I'm heading back to Sydney. We're going to the specialist today to find out what's going on with my daughter's knee. Enjoy a week. Please put #reflect in here and let me know what it is that you really enjoyed about this, or any time you actually reflected on something that was relevant to you, because the more you share these things, the more you're inspiring others, and they may have the same thoughts, and you might be able to give them a different perspective from your experience. So that's what I love about this group is the fact that we all share our wins, and we share our reflection time, and we support each other in that process. So take care, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you soon. Mwah.